Academy. I'm a BCA BA, and today we're going to study task list FK08. And it's basically about radical behaviorism, methodological behaviorism, and private event. The ethical considerations is just refrain from sharing any test questions that you have seen or any paid resources or anything like that. We do use open resources here, and we make sure to give credit to those who said it or wrote it. Guys, I have great news today. I am excited. Maybe that's why I'm nervous today, because today is the first time that I'm using Cooper 3rd edition. Dun, 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 dun. Woo-hoo. I know I'm a nerd. Aren't we all nerds? Like really like exciting nerds because we are. I am proud to say I'm a nerd. I love that book. I got it. I was so excited, and everybody in my house was like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got a book." Okay, guys. So what are we going to cover? We already talked about what we were going to cover, so let's just get to it. Methodological behaviorism. I want comments. I want you to answer back. So it only considers what type of events? Methodological behaviorism.
Overt.
Private. Methodological behaviorism only considers public events. It does not consider what type of event?
Private.
Private. That's the thing. That's not considered. Okay, let's just read what it says. Acknowledges the existence of mental events, but do not consider them in the analysis of behavior. So basically they're saying, yes, we know they exist. We know people have thoughts and feelings and all those things, but we just don't care about using them in the analysis of the behavior when we're doing our thing. Okay, another thing to keep in mind, that just like in radical behaviorism, it uses scientific manipulation to search for functional relations between events. What does that mean? Basically, that radical behaviorism and methodological behaviorism have this thing in common. They both look for the functional relations between events. Got it? Okay, so now let's go to radical behaviorism. So radical behaviorism considers what types of behavior?
Private.
Private and?
Measurable or behavioral?
Is it covert?
It's private and public. Those are the words that they use. Yeah. Okay. So in radical behaviorism includes and seeks to understand all human behavior. Skinner incorporated private events into an overall conceptual system of behavior.
Today, when my school's over, can Hannah come over?
I don't
want to come out of this right now.
See if I can mute all.
I am in class. Just go talk with your father right
Guys, mute your microphone, please. And then unmute whenever I ask a question. I appreciate it. Okay, so what do we mean by this? Radical behavioralism includes and seeks to understand all human behaviors. Skinner incorporated private events into an overall conceptual system of behavior. What do we mean by that?
So basically they're just saying that private behavior, like inner thoughts and feelings, are also behaviors, are considered as behaviors.
Exactly. So I just wanted to frame it in different words. This is the simplified version. This is the more Cooper words, because we want us to get used to the wording. That's what I wanted to do. So just like methodological behaviorism, it uses scientific manipulations to search for functional relations between events. Got it? Get it? Good. Okay. Here's what Skinner said. I contend that my toothache is just as physical as my typewriter. So basically, toothache, it's what he's feeling. He's feeling the pain, but he's saying that it's just as physical as the typewriter, which you can see and you can touch it and you can move it around. And that Skinner invented what, guys? What type of behaviorism did Skinner invent? Radical behaviorism or methodological behaviorism?
Radicalism.
You coming in and out.
Me, Jenny's Bell. I'm the one who's having issues with audio.
I think it was a microphone. It's good now.
Okay, guys. So here's what's written in the third edition, the Cooper's third edition. It says Skinner's behaviorism makes three major assumptions regarding the nature of private events. Does any of you read it? Do you know it? You want to jump and say something? Just guess.
That the circular reasoning, and then there's maybe not.
No, because circular reasoning goes with mentalism. And remember, this is the key thing I want you to know. Private events has nothing to do with mentalism. Because the feelings that the Skinner is talking about, it's feelings that he can measure. For example, I have a headache. He's not saying that you, let's say Aisha, can measure that headache. He's saying that I, Jenny's Bell, can measure my own headache because I can feel the headache and I can observe it I can observe it. It's a little tricky. Ask me questions if you have any questions. Okay, private events are behaviors, examples, thoughts, and feelings. That's what they kept repeating over and over again. If you have any questions, remember to go page 11 in the third edition, but I'm sure it could be in the same, it has to be at the beginning of the book in the second edition. Behavior that takes place within the skin is distinguished from other public behaviors only by its inaccessibility. So because you cannot access that behavior, my headache, then that's what makes it private, but not because it's different. Private behavior is influenced by the same kinds of variables as publicly accessible behavior. So what does this mean? Private behavior is influenced by the same kind of variables as publicly accessible behavior. So for example, the same rules that apply for a public behavior, a child crying, which is publicly, everybody can see it. The same rules apply to that same child having a headache. It's just that the person that can measure is the child himself is the one that can measure it, because he's the one who is getting in contact with that headache.
So it's like, just because you can't see it doesn't mean they don't exist. Like heart rate, you can't see it, but you can technically measure it by maybe going to a doctor, and like they can, I don't know, measure your heart rate.
It's like there's a whole chapter, or there's a whole section about self-management. You can manage your own behavior, and sometimes you can manage your own private events, which are behaviors. I hope that's explaining it a little better. But you just gotta be careful. You just gotta be careful with how you word it.
Another good example of a private event could be like a cramp. So like if you have a cramp and you have that pain, then that's something that nobody could measure, but you know how much pain you have.
Exactly. Well, the way that I understood it when I read the book, it's like the private event would be, it's you're the one who can measure, because you're the observer. You are the one who is in contact with that feeling of pain, that pain. I cannot, does that explain does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Because here's the thing, in radical behaviorism, there's a part in the book that says in radical behaviorism, the term observe, which is the key thing, implies coming into contact. So for example, my headache, I am inside coming into contact with my headache. with the pain that I am having. You, the outside, they, me, it's not coming into contact with my headache. So I'm the one observing my headache because I'm the one coming into contact with my headache. It sounds like a plain words. You just gotta repeat the video and look at it again and again and read it again and again. Just let's go into this one. Why the name radical behaviorism? Why is it called radical behaviorism? It's not difficult, guys. It's just because Skinner basically radicalized the behaviorism. Why did he radicalize it? Here's what he said. And I like what he said. Skinner said, probably is the fact that he invented a radical behaviorism is probably the most drastic change ever proposed in our way of thinking about men. It is almost literally a matter of turning the explanation of behavior inside out. So because it used to be with methodological behaviorism, it used to be you were just dealing with the things in the outside, the things that you wouldn't see, the public things, the things that you would see, the public things. But now when radical behaviorism came around, then you would consider the outside and also the inside. Okay, so let's go to the questions. Are private events behaviors? Yes, they are. No, they're not. Yes and no. Maybe it depends on who you ask.
I love the choices.
Yes, they are.
This one's tricky. Okay, I have somebody for yes, they are.
It depends. I mean, if you ask somebody who's radical or methodological.
So was that Aisha? I'm not getting it. Okay, so Aisha thinks that D, right? And
No.
somebody
say
said
D.
A. Okay, let me see the shot because the shot is they're blowing up. I have a couple for A. I have a couple for C. Okay, here's my answer. Maybe it depends on who you are. So who you ask. So basically, if you ask somebody in the world of methodological behaviorism, they're not behaviors. But if you ask in the world of radical behaviorism, yes, they are behaviors. In the world of ABA, the world that we live in, yeah, you know what I mean. The world that we're studying for the test, yes, they are. So yes, they are. So it depends on the way they structure the test question. That would go with your answer. If they're asking specifically about I always get my tongue tricked. Methodological behaviorism, then you would say no. If they ask about radical behaviorism, you would say yes. Does that answer your questions? So which type of behaviorism considers private events a behavior? This is what we were just talking about. So I have a couple of you in the chat saying B, 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 B. So let's go and say it is B. Structurism is another type of behaviorism that don't stress about that one. I just read it today in the book, but does not consider private events. Radical behaviorism does consider private events as a behavior, and Skinnerian behaviorism, I don't think it's real. I just put it there. Methodological behaviorism does not consider private events. Okay, as behaviors. Okay, so I think you should know this one because we're repeating the same thing a couple of different ways. So for radical behaviorism, private events are those events wherein the individuals respond with respect to certain stimuli accessible to themselves alone. The response that are made to those stimuli may themselves be public or they may be private. So is it A, observable? So do we put here observable and here accessible only to the individuals involved? Or do we put here accessible only to the individuals involved and here observable to others? Or accessible to no one and observable to others, or observable to others and accessible to no one, blah, 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 blah. Come on. Where is the answer? What's your answer? Be loud. I know you're writing in the chat, but I want to hear you loud.
A, B.
A.
There you go. Nice job. It is A. At the end of this thing, we all gonna know this. Okay, here's what I like about it, guys. And that's why I quoted from it. So here, private events. Let's say my headache. Are those events where individuals respond with respect to certain stimuli accessible to themselves alone, that the response that they made to those stimuli may themselves be public. So the response may be public. For example, I close my door. My finger is there in the middle. The door closes, and what do I say? Oh my God, you closed the door. That's me screaming. Is that public or private?
Public.
Public. Me feeling that pain of bumping. You know how you get that feeling of you feel like the thumb is going to pop out? That one, is that private or public?
Private.
Private. Why is it private? Was I coming into contact with that feeling of bumping, or however you want to describe it? Yes or no? Yes. I myself coming into contact with that pumping feeling. Okay, nonetheless, it need not be supposed that events taking place within the skin have any special properties for that reason alone. For radical behaviorism, then, one's responses with respect to private stimuli are equally lawful and alike in kind to one's responses with respect to public stimuli. So they want you to think about them as the same thing. Okay, I believe this is the last one. So John just received a big delivery from Amazon. When he went to grab the box fell on top of his toe. John screamed, "Stupid box." His wife saw what happened and thought, "I knew that would happen." From the statement above, what is a private event? The wife telling John that she knew that would happen, John's pain, John screaming, the box falling. I know you're putting in the chat, so say it out loud, don't worry about it.
B.
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 B it is. Congratulations, you got it right. So the wife didn't tell John, right? That's not in the statement. That was my little trick that I wanted you to be focused on detail, test-taking strategy. But she thought about it. So this is what type of event is this? What type of behavior is this?
Private.
Private. She did not say it. She thought about it. Okay, guys. So we are done for today. If you have any questions, concerns, anything like that, remember that we're hosting our next class on test-taking intensive course on Wednesday, May 27 at 8 p.m. Do you have any questions or concerns?
Is that Eastern time?
Eastern Standard Time, yeah. Let me write it right down. Eastern Standard Time, yes. And like always, you will get the whole, the 25 mock question test. And then in the 2 hour, you're gonna go over the mock questions and break them down. And we're gonna teach you in this one specifically test-taking strategies to look for details, to look for negation, to look for those things that always confuse you. Instead of the specific thing, instead of the general, the mock test is pretty hard. It's pretty hard. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you.
a wonderful night.